Howdy, 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 my name is Untitled Chapter, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, I'm pretty sure we read from the Spider Proletariat up through the Green Man, which means in this episode we'd be reading the Humanization Process, Secret Chord, Cockatrice, Jonah Crusoe, and Poor Man's Midas. Yeah, that sounds about right. I definitely remember reading about Mr. Life and Mr. Death. I definitely remember that. So, let's check out that there Humanization Process. What is that? What is... Okay, let's find out. SCP-1011 is to be kept in Hall 7 at Site 35. That's a lot of numbers just straight off the bat. 2 guards are to be present at all times in the entrance to Hall 7 to prevent the removal of SCP-1011. The disposable population working on Site 35 as a part of a currently running experiments is suspended from monthly termination schedule due to the extended length of time needed to study the effects of 1011. As material produced during the experiment appears to lack anomalous properties, its use is approved for non-critical applications as defined in document CSG-0371N. Is that document in here? We'll find out. Well, 1011 is a statue approximately 2 meters tall, weighing approximately 4,200 kilograms, depicting a worker whose head had been replaced by an assortment of tools. The pedestal bears an inscription stating, "Man is the most important means of production," and the year of casting is stated to be 1927. Material analysis has revealed the composition to be an ordinary cast iron with 2.3 weight% carbon content. I assume that's what that is. 1011's anomalous properties manifest when it is seen by human subjects who will engage in productive labor no later than 3 hours after the sighting, and escalates slowly with additional exposure. Denial of exposure to 1011 has been shown sufficient to halt the progress of the condition. Not sure why I said it like that. During Stage 1, subjects designated 1 will begin to demonstrate a heightened sense of morale and satisfaction, voluntarily working longer hours and paying increased attention to their task. As the phase progresses, 1 cease activities other than work, sleep, and satisfying basic bodily needs. After approximately blank month, Stage 2 is marked by the 1 initially beginning to show reluctance to use means of personal safety, such as helmets, gloves, or safety glasses. When questioned, 1 respond finding them unnecessary and binding. As the phase progresses, 1 also slowly ceased to utilize tools, favoring the use of their own body even at risk of minor damage. This phase lasts for approximately blank further months. The onset of Stage 3 is marked by insomnia in 1. Instead, they congregate within eyesight of 1011 and cease movement, staring at it for 3 hours a day average. The effects of Stage 2 progress with an almost complete abandonment of tool and machine use by 1, with them often acting in groups to replace lost functionality. Bodily deformations appear on 1 at this stage, which tend to facilitate their tasks. 1 at this stage have a marked resistance to pain. This stage lasts indefinitely. On at least one known occasion, the condition caused by 1011 progresses into Stage 4, Terminal Stage. During this stage, 1 use one another as construction material, depleting the population of an afflicted factory in a matter of days. Despite extensive experimentation with possible triggers, attempts to initiate terminal stage among D-class population on Site 35 have been unsuccessful. Recovery log. SCP-1011 came into attention of the Foundation at blank Steelworks of 28th October, Bashkir ASSR RSFSR Soviet Union, currently Site 35, on blank 1947. After an inspection was mandated as a part of price awarding procedure due to the consistent exceeding of production targets, see Addendum 1. Sources indicate 1011 has been installed in blank Steelworks of 28th October during late 1944, being found in the inventory of Redacted during its bombing by the Wehrmacht on blank 1944. No previous records seem to exist of its inventorization, delivery, or ordering. However, before containment by the Foundation could be attempted, the entire site was taken off limits by agents of Division P, Psychotronics, GRU. At around this time, Stage 4 had apparently occurred, see Addendum 2 for a leaked report section. Following the dissolution of the USSR in 1991, Foundation agents persuaded the government of Russian Federation to decommission and sell the site to a Foundation front end for redacted dollars, and Site 35 was established around it. Okay, Addendum 1. Redacted for brevity. The directing committee of Redacted welcomed me cordially. However, I couldn't help but notice a marked lack of focus and erratic behavior on their part. Comrade kept talking about what a marvelous effect the statue that has been installed in the hall during the last 5-year plan has had on worker morale, and what a work of socialist art it is, and urged me to see it as soon as possible. On the other hand, Comrade T constantly filled in assorted forms with what appeared to be just his finger, though I might be mistaken. Redacted. The conditions in the main factory are unfitting for the basic dignity of socialist man. Men barehandedly handle red-hot ingots, their hands black and shriveled. Others pound rivets into sheet metal with their heads. I've seen 2 men use the back of third to saw through a log, his back covered in sharp ridges not found on a healthy person. They seem to feel no discomfort and smile eagerly at every visitor. About a data expunged wire acted as a human lifting mechanism of sort. When 5 men fell into the molten metal, another replaced them within moments. Comrade M, who was my guide on the tour, didn't appear to find any wrongs with the present arrangement, answering a few of my questions reluctantly, then continuing to extol the virtues of the statue. Redacted. I request immediate shutdown of operations at Blank Steelworks of 28th October. It's quarantining and further investigation. Despite the exceptional effort needed towards the rebuilding of our motherland, this is decisively not the path we are to take. Furthermore, the observed could be signs of sabotage as per the recent circulatory detailing min data expunged. Mikhail, that. Addendum 2. Leaked from leaked Division P GRU action report. Upon arrival, the site appeared to be deserted. The offices were empty, no sight of either the directors or the party committee. The hall containing the object contained several piles of clothing and some data expunged, but otherwise nothing notable. Lieutenant N appeared overly disturbed and obsessed by it, but I managed to force him to follow on. Redacted. In the main foundry we found 94 produced ingots, the last 15 of which having a distinct texture. Scraping one with my knife revealed considerable softness of the material, and I was able to dislodge bone-like segments. The furnace was cooled. Inspection revealed it containing remains of blood and scraps of tissue. However, data expunged some probably consistency. Large segments of the rolling and extrusion assembly were replaced by severely data expunged, apparently expired. Redacted. Encountering one of the former workers. He lacked clothing and his... Ignored further questioning and kept repeating jobs done. He was detained for further questioning. Redacted. End of excerpt. Is this factory related? It is not factory related. It's just a cognito hazard. Okay. Secret chord. The secret chord is keter, but the humanization process isn't? Well, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be keter because it's just a statue, and as long as they're not looking at it, they should be fine. Get out of here. The Foundation has implemented protocols to cancel or to reduce the risk of generation 3 of the 5 constituent sound tones that comprise 1012. Frequency B and D. Frequencies B and D are, respectively, the antiphases of frequencies B and D. These antiphase, or assuming phase, not phrase, frequencies cancel frequencies B and D, respectively, within the range of the broadcast. The Foundation operates active noise cancellation broadcast devices in approximately 36,000 locations worldwide, commonly disguised as public address systems, klaxons, speakers, and the like, which continually broadcast frequency B or D, subject to the availability of power. Additionally, the Foundation has arranged for frequencies B and D to be continually broadcast by most of the world's electroacoustic transducers. This has been achieved through a combination of inserting design changes into the engineering specifications of most commonly manufactured electroacoustic transducers manufactured since 1988, asserting frequency B, D, or both into the transmission of the broadcast media and the encoding of recorded media, including inserting design changes into the engineering specifications of recording appliances so that B and D are or both are automatically encoded, and by manipulating the supply frequencies of commercially transmitted and distributed electric power so as to cause sound equipment and other electric appliances to generate frequency B or D. Under normal circumstances, B and D are each substantially higher than the upper frequency limit for mammalian hearing and are therefore inaudible to humans as well as other animals with a greater range of hearing, such as dogs. However, it has been reported that some humans exposed to strong broadcasts of frequency D experience tinnitus. Under certain atmospheric and geological conditions, such as those prevailing in Taos, New Mexico, and Bristol, UK, the broadcast of frequencies B and D may be audible. Additionally, certain models of fluorescent lighting tubes and cathode ray tube televisions emit audible tones in sympathetic resonance with B and D. Frequency C. In the wild, most instances of the generation of frequency C had consisted of the whale song of the Svalbard whale. Through Foundation efforts, that whale became extinct in 1982, thereby decreasing the likelihood that the tone would inadvertently be generated in a location near the generation of other constituent tones. All documentation that specifies the constituent sound tones of 1012 is to be kept strictly confidential. Description: 1012 is a chord consisting of 5 sound tones designated frequencies A, B, C, D, and E. The tones are within the human range of human hearing, slightly higher than G, whatever that is, ultrasonic, infrasonic, lower than the range of human hearing, but observable at higher intensities in the form of vibrations, ultrasonic, and within range of hearing, but rarely used in the chromatic musical scale. The generation of one or more but less than all of the constituent tones of 1012 does not result in anomalous effects. The simultaneous generation of all 5 tones for a duration exceeding a few seconds affects the resonance of certain subatomic particles within range, causing them to disintegrate into their constituent elementary particles. The described result is predicted according to the cosmological model set forth in Foundation Document 8001.252.KT.1012. Laboratory testing of the model is prohibited. Computer modeling predicts that a generation of 1012 within close proximity of a mass, such as an astronomical body, is likely to result in an uncontrollable chain reaction resulting in the disintegration of virtually all matter comprising the mass. Okay. According to the model, once such a chain reaction is initiated, it will continue to progress whether or not the tones are continuing to be generated until all available mass is affected, i.e. a CK-class scenario. Proposals to use 1012 or a modified version as a defense mechanism against hostile extraterrestrial threats, including 1548 and 2838, have been rejected due to the potentially disastrous side effects of 1012 testing. So it sounds like it's just a sound that makes reality disintegrate. Okie dokie. Is the cockatrice actually a cockatrice, or is it going to be something else? It's also keter, whatever it's going to be. Standard safety procedures for visually reactive items, ED8, are to be posted at all times. Any staff entering the containment area are to review this document before entering. Any staff entering the area are to wear the AR-68 Armored Variant Hazmat suit. Staff exiting the area with damaged suits are to be remanded to quarantine for 1 hour. Staff becoming paralyzed during cleaning/feeding/testing cycles are to be immediately removed and remanded to medical custody until 5 hours after recovery. 1013 is to be fed once daily, consisting of 1 small mammal, rabbit, large cat, rat, or dog. This feeding is only to take place if there are no calcified remains still within the containment area. Calcified remains that are no longer actively being fed upon are to be removed and disposed of via incineration. Hazmat protocols are to be observed during the disposal process. Test subject remains may be taken into the containment area for feeding purposes only when standard feeding practice cannot be observed. Staff succumbing to 1013 pre-feeding effects are to be removed and disposed of. All remains must be disposed of within 1 hour of final calcification. Okay. 1013 appears to be a small reptile with a distinctly avian head, so it's just straight up a cockatrice. Okay. A wide frill extends from the base of the head and can be flared out via tiny bony spines, not tiny, bony spines radiating through the frill from the neck. The body appears similar to most common reptiles with the exception of the head and abnormally long tail. While the main body is only 60 centimeters long, the tail is nearly 121 centimeters and exceptionally flexible. It has been observed to use this tail to trip and distract large prey. The head is distinctive, appearing to be that of a male chicken on first viewing. However, 1013 does not possess any standard avian markers besides the superficial resemblance. The beak is serrated and appears to possess very basic needle-like teeth. These are only used in feeding and are not used in any way to hunt prey. The head also lacks any feathers and has an enlarged wattle. 1013 hunts by projecting a form of unknown radiation, wave or mimetic force into prey items, making eye contact with 1013. Subjects report a sudden stabbing pain in most major muscle groups, with full paralysis setting in within 3 seconds. This paralysis continues for 8 minutes, with full recovery after 10. Paralyzed subjects are then bitten, beginning the calcification process. Research into this effect is ongoing, as no form of venom or viral agents have been detected from this bite. However, this contact will initiate a rapid change in cellular structure in the bitten subject. The outer skin tissues will begin a rapid calcification, growing very dense and inflexible over several minutes. This will extend from the point of contact outward across the body and can calcify a human being in 15 minutes. Subjects recovering from paralysis mid-calcification report the feeling as extremely painful, with a burning numbness in fully calcified areas. This calcification extends approximately 3 centimeters into the body, leaving most internal tissues undisturbed. Calcification does not appear to affect the eyes, the mouth, nose, or other major mucous membranes. There is currently no known way to reverse the process. It will peck through the outer layer of heart and flesh and begin to consume tissues from the inside, burrowing deep into the body as flesh is consumed. The cockatrice has a voracious appetite and will consume nearly twice its body weight at each feeding. It will only consume living tissue and will ignore dead or decomposing flesh. It has been noted to use natural body openings, mouth and eyes primarily when available, and is capable of compressing its body to fit into very small openings. Prey items often die from blood loss or massive internal damage before feeding is complete, leaving the remainder of tissues to decompose within the calcified tissue. This outer tissue will slowly break down, causing large sections to crack and fall free. This will expose muscle and internal tissues, which are then often predated upon by 1013. We'll sometimes wait for this process to begin before feeding. And these are the remains of Agent Blank. They began losing calcified tissue 2 days after exposure. Subject died from massive blood loss before the test data could be recovered. Recovery notes. The cockatrice was recovered in Egypt near a former blankety-blank-blank facility. Due to this proximity and the lack of additional 1013 anywhere in the surrounding area, it is theorized 1013 may be an engineered organism. It had calcified several animals and 2 shepherds and had been observed on multiple occasions. Recovery was achieved with only 1 death, Agent Blank, proving much of our initial information on the calcification process. Local communities dismissed the incident with no involvement from agents. Notes on behavior. 1013 is somewhat similar to a spider and will paralyze and calcify subjects even when not hungry, presumably to keep them for later. This was observed during Breach Incident 11HR, see attached documentation, when 1013 calcified 20 members of staff. It is also very aggressive. It will attempt to stare down and bite any subject that enters the containment area. The neck frill is an amazing adaptation. It lives abruptly with a loud snapping sound and sometimes causes subjects to look directly at 1013. It seems to have a range of about 54 meters for its stare and appears to need direct eye contact to work. It appears to only paralyze 1 subject at a time, but can attack multiple subjects in rapid succession. It appears to be immune to its own stare, reacting with basic aggression to reflections. It feeds primarily on mammals, attacking animals such as fish, birds, or insects only when near starving. It exhibits a preference for soft tissues, eating the eyes and tongue first whenever possible. Notes on reproduction, level 2 clearance required. Ongoing testing into the feeding habits of 1013 have been partially successful. Questions were raised regarding the near constant feeding exhibited by 1013, which is highly irregular for a reptile. It was initially theorized that the paralysis and calcification process were metabolically taxing to 1013, requiring enormous amounts of food to fuel the process. It is now apparent that members of 1013 are hermaphroditic and appear to reproduce in a way similar to budding or basic cellular division. It will ingest massive amounts of tissue, increasing its body mass rapidly. This mass will then begin to form cyst-like structures in the tail section, each of which contains a juvenile 1013. The process by which this occurs is currently under investigation. After 48 hours, juvenile 1013 will forcibly exit the parent body. Parent 1013 will typically release spawn within calcified prey. Juvenile 1013 exhibit no feeding preference and will consume any biological material, living or dead. They do not engage in cannibalism and will exit the calcified remains once food has been exhausted. Juvenile 1013 will seek out cool, dark places and begin rapid molting, doubling in size every 6 hours until reaching full adult size. New adult 1013 will quickly establish territories and begin the feeding spawning cycle again. The juveniles seek out areas such as ventilation shafts, plumbing, or discarded clothing and shoes in which to molt and grow. Disturbing a juvenile during this period will always provoke a sustained attack. This sequence of behavior was discovered after a lockdown event in Site Blank resulting from data expunged failure. Recovery team found the site to be infested with 1013, with over 1,000 individuals being reported and destroyed. Final sterilization took 8 weeks and resulted in multiple staff deaths. Research into the control of the rampant reproduction cycle with the goal of eventual bioweapon designation is ongoing. Okay, that's another SCP. Seek out cool, dark places. What was 238 again? Is this the creepy infinite tunnel? Upon the escape of 6 juvenile instances of 1013, the local SCP assigned to 2 reported 1013 squeezing through the original wall and entering the underground chambers. After several O5 people and a couple of doctors were notified, they elected to send a single team to retrieve. The end result of the retrieval team were 6 dead, 2 critically injured, 1 missing in action, and the 6 juvenile instances being recaptured. Further research will be carried out by Dr. Blank and Blank. What is this again? An enormous underground facility with a single entrance on the island of Blank, extreme north of Russia. Okie dokie. So they've been found in a tunnel, which is also Keter. So, Jonah Crusoe. Well, it's Euclid. Specimens of Jonah Crusoe are to be contained in a 12 meter by 12 meter room not constructed of wood. Is this a combination of Jonah and the whale and also Robinson Crusoe? A beach environment is to be maintained in the chamber at all times, and seawater pumped through the chamber to simulate the effects of tides. Members of 1014 are to be placed so that only their heads remain above water when water is at its highest. Any salt water with sufficiently high plankton content may be substituted if necessary. Should the water level drop to the point where a specimen is entirely exposed for more than 6 hours, Class 2 hazardous materials protocols are to be in effect until the water level is restored. 1014 is a tunicate capable of mimicking human appearance and vocalizations. Though very similar to related species in its larval form, a mature 1014 appears very much like a weathered and emaciated man dressed in rags. This is believed to be a heavily adapted tunic, a protective covering common among tunicates. This covering constantly emits a foul-smelling mucus, likely to discourage closer inspection. Like all tunicates, the adult form is a sessile filter feeder and spends its life anchored to a rock near the high tide line on a beach. The larval forms are predatory and avoid anchoring areas populated by humans or adult 1014. Sorry. When a ship comes near, members of 1014 thrash about somewhat to attract its attention. If approached by humans, it will release from the rock so that it may be transported. Due to their resemblance to human shipwreck victims, many ships will take one on board, removing it from the water and thereby triggering its reproductive cycle. The mucus the 1014 secretes then changes to include symbiotic bacteria capable of rapidly rotting wood. It also self-fertilizes and begins gestating eggs. When the boat sinks, 1014's eggs hatch into larvae, which consume what remains of the ship's contents. If the boat did not sink, the specimen dies within no more than a month. 1014 populations are known to exist in the wild, though their numbers have been rapidly declining due to pollution and the severe decline of wooden ships. Research suggests population was at its peak in the 17th through 19th centuries. Notably, 1014 is capable of mimicking human words and phrases, which it continually repeats seemingly at random when removed from the water. Memory for these appears to be transmitted through unknown means from generation to generation. Communication has proven impossible, and there are no indications that 1014 is sentient. Addendum 3, excerpt from an audio log of 1014 in a drain testing chamber. Portions in brackets are translated to English. Disjointed speech of 1014 believed to be due to repeating phrases from multiple sources. Rotten through. What happened to you, old man? Tell them I love them. Buckets! We need to bail now! The hold for him. What are you saying? Let the depths rise up and sweep over the shores, rendering the works of man to dust. This can't be. The ship was fine at port. You need to eat. I don't want to die. You brought this on the ship, you cursed madman! Let the depths rise up and sweep over the shores, rendering the works of man to dust. What are you? Castaway, seed of Jonah. Like I said, the one thing in multiple different languages. Well, just the two. And the poor man's Midas. A penny from 1974. It's safe. 1015-1 is to be contained in a passcode locked safe in a 2 by 2 meter room to be supervised by one guard at all times. All testing is to take place in a room lined with several layers of thin rubber, latex, paper, or other material on the floor, walls, and ceiling. Each layer of material must be no thicker than 0.5 millimeter. One is an American penny marked with the year 1974. All markings present on the coin match pennies minted in this year. Metallurgical analysis has thus far been impossible, as the penny has resisted all attempts to cut or scratch it, and it is unaffected by temperature changes, always cool to the touch. A person possessing the penny is known as 2. No willful action by 2 will permanently rid them of the penny. Dropping, throwing, or giving away the penny will result in the penny reappearing somewhere on 2's person within 4 seconds. Ownership transfer requires the death of 2, followed by another person picking the penny up, or the theft, non-consensual taking, of the penny from its current owner. Within 2 hours of the penny's acquisition, objects touched by most exposed body parts, see test log, of 2 are instantly transmuted into 1 or more 1974 pennies. For approximately the first 24 hours, the effect will only manifest on small objects barely larger than a penny. Over the next 2 weeks, the effect will increase the maximum size of affected objects, probability of transmutation on contact, and percentage of matter converted on contact. Eventually, contact with 2 will convert all solid, contiguous matter into pennies. Objects that are smaller than a penny in any dimension are not affected. Transmutation only occurs as long as 2 is alive. The effect conserves volume rather than mass. That is, all space occupied by the converted object will be replaced as efficiently as possible by pennies, with any remaining non-transmuted volume apparently lost. The effect's boundaries thus far seem to be limited to a single solid contiguous object at a time. It used to say, pennies created this way have not shown any anomalous effects. They are identical at microscopic level to 1, but unlike the original can be altered or damaged like any penny. Metallurgical testing has shown pennies created this way are approximately 95% copper, consistent with pennies minted in 1974. But now there's a new addendum. Addendum 1 was originally recovered following an investigation in blankety blank. All of the street lamps on the street have been vandalized, leaving the shaft of every lamp missing, while all internal components and the bulbs themselves were found on the ground, along with a substantial number of pennies. Similar cases later involved sections of steel, outer walls on several warehouses, all gravestones in a section of a local cemetery, and the support beams for an electrical tower which subsequently collapsed. Pennies were found at all scenes. A penny smelting operation was then found inside a condemned home after a fire broke out. Large parts of the home, including its foundation, were discovered transmuted into pennies. Blank homeless people were apparently involved in the operation were found dead in the remains of the home. Agents in the area investigating the previous phenomena encountered 2 survivors at the scene, scooping up pennies. They were later identified as brothers Larry and Bill Sorkin, a pair of locally known indigents. Larry Sorkin died after being fired upon with non-lethal rubber rounds. Autopsy later confirmed cause of death was high-velocity insertion of pennies into his abdominal cavity, not all of which corresponded with the rubber rounds. One was found on his person by lab assistant Trevor. See test log. Bill Sorkin was apprehended and interviewed. Addendum 1 interview. Forward, Bill Sorkin admitted his brother had found one at the bottom of a dumpster while searching for cans and bottles to return for deposit. And when did you notice something was odd? He gave me the penny, then I couldn't find it. He found a penny in his pocket again. It happened a few times. We don't have a lot of cash on hand, see, so we noticed that sort of thing. And the transmutation. What now? The anomalous conversion of matter into... When did stuff start turning into pennies when he touched it? Oh, that. It was later that day. We were just sitting with our sign, need money for food, etc., and someone tossed us a quarter. Larry picked it up and it was a penny. I was surprised, but he said it had been happening all day. He was kinda... Notes show Sorkin made a motion like a bottle being knocked back at this point. He then showed me the cup. All pennies in there. I was pretty mad. And when did the larger items start being affected? Right then, actually. The mug of pennies turned into pennies. I think I cheered up then. How did your brother eat or drink? Well, that was a scary thought. He couldn't get rid of the penny. We realized pretty quick he was going to starve if we didn't think of something. Straws seemed to be okay, even if it looked stupid sipping out of a 40. Then we found out little chunks of food didn't change. Meals just took a long time, and I had to cut them up for him. Worth it, I figured. Was there anything else unaffected by the anomaly? What, who, and the where now? The magic penny-making powers. Was there anything your brother couldn't turn into pennies? Well, his clothes didn't change, except he lost the buttons on a sports coat, and the soles of his shoes. Newspaper didn't change, but almost everything else did. Had to be as thick as a penny, maybe? So you converted several $1,000s worth of concrete and scrap metal into several thousand pennies. Sounds really stupid when you put it that way, but it was easier than taking this stuff as is. Me and some friends rolled out a tarp and Larry touched whatever and we caught all the pennies we could, then rolled up the tarp and loaded it into my buddy's truck. But then you melted them. Those are 1974 pennies, copper, worth almost 2 cents each, and hey, imagine trying to sell a truckload of gravestones. Not happening. Moot point now, though. What happened in the house? Larry happened. Larry is the reason we can't have nice things. We were all drinking to our newfound success. He got hammered, tripped, and touched the floor with his face. Then he tried to get up, and I don't think he saw one of the propane torch tanks rolling towards him, and it was almost empty, but pennies went flying everywhere. One cut my face. How is he, by the way? He's fine. But did that start the fire, then? The other guys were passed out around a space heater. The gas got to the heat right away, and that's when it went up. They didn't stand a chance with the fire. Except one guy, Ken, he got up. He ran for the door same time as us, and Larry was stumbling around and transmutating everything. Larry reached to push Kenny out of the way. When was Ken turned into pennies? God, it's so much worse than you'd think because your body... It's not all one piece. There are a lot of parts. So many little pieces. No. I'm not talking anymore about this. God, if I never see another penny again, it'll be too soon. Any chance you might let me and my brother go now? Soon. Bill Sorkin was named D-1015-1 following this interview. Okay, test log. Lab assistant Trevor Blank 7 hours after exposure to 1. Asked to strip, then hold still while the researchers touch round plastic tokens of various parts of his body. One set of tokens measured 2 centimeters diameter and 4 millimeters thickness. Another set tokens 2 centimeters. The tokens with thickness of half a millimeter were unaffected. Results varied for tokens of 4 millimeters thickness. Skin token transmuted into 1 penny. Hair, no result. Teeth, 1 penny. Eye, 1 penny. Fingernails, toenails, no result. Tongue, 2 pennies. Subsequent tests with the tokens on tissues that previously yielded 1 penny then yielded 2 pennies. We believe this is because of the progression of 1's anomalous effects. Okay, lab assistant. Told to place 1 carefully in the hand of D1, then withdraw hand and immediately touch plastic token. Token transmuted into 2 pennies despite absence of 1 on his person. 1 then vanished from 1's hand in 3.5 seconds, located in 1's left sock. 10.5 hours. And also, Bill. Lab assistant Trevor Blank told to place 1 on the table and turn away while 1 picked it up. It vanished from his hand in 3 seconds, located inside jumpsuit. 10.5 hours after exposure. Told to strip naked, place 1 on table, and turn away while D picked up the item. 1 vanished from 1's hand in 4 seconds, unable to locate for several minutes until Blank expressed significant discomfort and data expunged. Vanished from toilet bowl in 3.5 seconds, was located in Blank's right sock. May I add, it's a good thing you thought to put that sock back on before data expunged again. 11.5 hours. 1 became agitated, demanding he be released, reunited with his brother, Larry Sorkin, whom subject was unaware was killed during item recovery, and allowed to keep our penny. Quickly attacked, Blank fractured Blank's nose, right orbital bone, and right cheekbone, knocking several teeth loose, rendering him unconscious. 1 then retrieved 1 from his hand. 1 remained in 1's possession. Blank ceased causing transmutation. That wasn't a test, he just beat the crap out of me while you recorded it! Welcome back, Trevor. Sorry about the face. Test 6. Subject refused further cooperation, was terminated with a gunshot to the head. All present instructed not to interact with 1. 1 remained inert where dropped on the floor. Even after removal of subject's body from room, body did not cause transmutation. Subject D-1015-2. Subject instructed to pick it up from the floor where it dropped the previous test. Confirmed ownership of item by transmuting 1 plastic token approximately an hour later. Test 8. 1 week after exposure. Instructed to test various objects in order to establish boundaries for transmutation. Results varied. Block of solid wood, transmutated to pennies. Glass brick, pennies. Drinking glass, no result. A good rule of thumb seems to be that the matter to be converted or replaced must be able to contain a penny in the 3-dimensional space the item occupies, i.e. the glass was too curved in this case. Water, no result. I think it's obvious we don't have to test gases. Wet sponge, sponge transmutated. Volume taken up by pennies slightly less than exterior volume of sponge. Pennies wet and resting in puddle. Block of wood coated in fresh paint. Block transmutated. Penny sitting in puddle of wet paint. Some splashed with paint. Block of wood in dried paint. Block transmutated. No paint remaining. Block of wood with old peeling paint. Transmutated. Some of the paint chips remaining. Dining room table with leaf installed. Section of tabletop that was touched transmuted entirely to pennies. All other components of tables, leaf, other tabletop section, legs, molding around table, unaffected. 2 blocks adhered using blank brand glue. Block touch was transmuted, other block unaffected. Block of ice, 4 meters cubed. Block transmuted, some pennies wet, and puddle discovered after pennies were cleared out of room by an industrial vacuum. Disposable 3, naked, restrained to an upright dolly. Entire epidermis and dermis transmuted to pennies, along with portions of hypodermis. Larger nerve fibers and blood vessels remained unaffected. Pennies landed on floor and puddle of various bodily fluids and body hair. Note, D2, who was initially reluctant to touch 3 for the test, reacted violently to results, immediately attempting data expunged, finally causing death by brain collapse. 2 had then attempted to attack Agent Blank, who terminated him with its sidearm before physical contact was made. Please, let's never do this again. Addendum 2. Research originally suggested that pennies created by 1015 had no anomalous properties. It is now known that an as of yet unidentified percentage of pennies created this way exhibit the anomalous effects of 1. On blank blank blank, police found the body of blank blank, a Department of Public Works committee who had assisted in the cleanup of the house fire where one was recovered, and who had subsequently not returned to work for more than a week. Blank had died of self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Much of the home's furniture and architectural features were reported to be missing, with a large quantity of pennies found around the house, as well as other blood and bodily fluids smeared on the walls and the floor. Wife and infant were never found. Foundation agents recovered one instance of one on site. Further instances are to be contained making use of D-class personnel to avoid inadvertent ownership by Foundation personnel. So, the penny was terrifying, and that does it for this episode. And the next one we're going to be checking out the bloody key, the replacement, the thirst, an artist's folly, and an important letter. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe would be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things, and I will see y'all in the next one. Later.